City Council work session. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Childs? Mr. Greider?
Here.
Ms. Wilder?
Here.
And Mr. Foyce?
Here. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as proposed, as well as the minutes of the June 6, 2022 meeting as proposed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and to kick us off, we have an update from the Historic Preservation Commission.
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. As many of you are aware, we do have a Historic Preservation Commission and a Historic Preservation Ordinance. So they look over some locally designated districts, take actions for national designations of historic properties, and then go into other projects as they see fit to help enhance and preserve our historic community. The chair is here, as well as a couple of our staff that work with them on that, and I'll turn it over to Ed.
Thank you, Noel. My name is Ed Otteson. I am chairman of the Waterloo Historic Preservation Commission. Okay, this is a list of our current members of our commission. We have two of them here, Yvonne Balchev and Matthew Gilbert, are with me here tonight in our audience. So what is historic preservation? And the reason for this work session that we asked for was back when I gave our annual report to the city council, one of the comments by one of the council members made me realize that many of the members on the council right now are new and may not know much about our commission and what we do. So right now, there are 4 approaches to historic preservation. And up here, they're listed, and I listed their definitions. So 1, preservation acts as a process of applying measures necessary to sustain the existing form, integrity, and materials of an historic property. Rehabilitation acts a process making possible the compatible use for property while preserving those portions or features which convey its historical, cultural, and architectural values. And I want to emphasize that most of our projects that we see is in this form of preservation, and that is rehabilitation. We're taking existing buildings and reusing them for a new, updated purpose. Restoration is an act or process of accurately depicting the form, features, and characters of a property as it appeared at a particular period of time. And this might be what most people would consider as preservation. And the final is just reconstruction, which is basically just a building back with new materials and everything to make a property look like what it was before it was destroyed. So the Waterloo Historic Preservation Commission was created through the Certified Local Government Program, which is where municipalities that have demonstrated through a certification process a commitment to local preservation and saving the past for future generations. The commission was created back in January of 1986, so we have a few years behind us right now. In our ordinance, the purpose and the intent of the commission, we have listed 7 different items, which I won't really go through here necessarily, but please, when you want to, take a time to review those. Much of what Noel said is included in that purpose and the intent. Also within the ordinance, there's commission's powers and duties, and there are 14 of those listed in the ordinance. And here again, I'm not going to go through every one of these. They are lengthy, but through the help from the city staff, the commission has regularly fulfilled a majority of those duties that are listed there. Oops, what happened there? Some of our accomplishments that you can see here, we've had a couple citywide surveys One in 1986, the survey in 1992 was predominantly on the Walnut Street neighborhood, and it took nearly 30 years before that actually was listed on the National Register. The 1995 survey was mainly listing structures that had been lost since the earlier 1986 survey. And then we've had a historic preservation plan in 2008, and then the most recent survey was what's termed as the Smoky Row neighborhood on the east side. Some of our goals, as Noel had mentioned, was we're trying to educate the people or the public to establish historic districts and to protect endangered significant properties. We also try to create partnerships for historic preservations and to promote Waterloo's historic inventory. Now, the City of Waterloo, the council itself, within the City of Waterloo, from what I could determine, and figures might be a little bit off, I'm not sure, hopefully they're correct, but we have 4 nationally listed districts here in Waterloo. We have 26 that are individually listed. We have 1 locally listed district, and at my count, 2 locally listed individual structures. And we have no preservation districts, which is a part of our ordinance as well. The difference between district and individual structure is just that. Individual structure is 1 building or 1 property, where a district could have buildings that could be individually eligible for listing. They could be contributing to the district, or they could be just part of that district. So it encompasses a larger area there. What's the economic impact of historic preservation? Well, I don't have really major figures here. I was hoping to have some, but I don't, unfortunately. But my guess, the cost to the city exactly is not that much. You're not putting out money to do these rehabilitations unless you have passively own that structure and intend to do it yourself. But typically, it's done by private entities that are doing that. The benefit to the city can be substantial because you're keeping property within the tax rolls. You're having work that's being done on it. So materials are being bought locally, and you're paying employees locally and exact. So there is a lot of benefit to that. So how can the city help? Well, as we see it now, and there's lots of ways that can be helped. Property management, maintaining city-owned individual eligible structures. And you do have a couple of them already that the city owns that are right now are just sitting and with nothing being done. And I know Noel's been trying to bring in developers on those, but until that happens, they still sit. And unfortunately, some of them are open to the weather and continue to deteriorate. Financial assistance, the commission would be very grateful if we could have a yearly budget for training of our commission members and other essential expenses. We are one of the few, there are several cities within Iowa that have historic preservation commissions that do have some form of budget from their city, but not every one of them. But the city of our size of Waterloo tend to have a budget for their commissions. Financial assistance for property owners. We see a lot of property owners that cannot follow our guidelines because they don't have the money. So some type of incentive would be great, but we know this is something that we need to think of outside the box of trying to create. And at this time, we really don't have those answers yet. We're always still looking for those. So any questions from me or members, or would any of our members like to add anything to this?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, go ahead.
will you make this presentation available to us since we don't have it? So since some of these things you kind of skimmed over.
Yeah, I know there was a lot in there and I didn't want to take all your time up.
Well, I understand. I just want to know if you get it to Noel or get it to us.
We can get that. That's not a problem. I have PowerPoint that can be given to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor
Mayor
Pro
Pro
Tem.
Tem,
Mr. Emus?
Yes, I think this is a question or two for Eric that I have. Right now, I'm sitting on the Veterans Commission, and the last meeting I was at, they told me that the building that they're in is under the historic preservation. And I guess the first question is, has anyone from there been in contact with you at all?
From the Veterans Building, not recently that I know of, and the staff is shaking their head no also.
Okay, well, the reason that I'm asking that is at the last meeting, there were concerns about the building itself and some of the work that needed to be done on that. And the question was, is that something that the city's responsible for, or should they be trying to raise money for it? Because it sounds like they actually can't do a lot without the city's permission. And I mean, they're talking about issues with their windows and tuck pointing and things like that, just infrastructure things that I'm talking about, but they don't feel like they're getting, the information or the support that they need. So, I just saw that you was here today, and I told them maybe they need to reach out to the historic preservation. So they may be looking to come to you, Eric, to, look at maybe some grant writing or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the resolution or the solution to it is, but I know that it is an issue.
I do believe the Veterans Building is one of those that is individually listed on the National Register, so there will be some requirements they need to follow, and coming through our commission would be helpful to them.
Okay, I will pass that information along.
Okay, Mr. Greider?
Thank you. Just ballpark, what budget would the commission be looking for to attend those trainings, the other essential services, just so we know as we start to begin the process of thinking about next year's budget?
Very good question. I think we've kicked around a figure, but I don't remember. Yeah, we can follow up on that for sure. Certainly as much as we can get.
Sure.
But, and I'm sure you'll want to know more of what we would intend to use that money on beyond the training session, because there's other things we could benefit with that money.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Nichols.
Noel, maybe you'd be able to speak to this, but as far as rehabilitation, you mentioned that was a primary, I guess, use of your time in the rehab section. Are community development funds able to be used in that fashion at all, like a normal residence, non-historic preservation residence?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. So, anytime a rehab is happening of a historic building, it would still be eligible for the CURA, the CLURA, if it's in one of those areas, or not CLURA, but the CURA, or even potentially one of our TIP districts. So we'll look to help them where we can for those rehabs. In terms of the CDBG money, if they're doing a rehab on a historic structure, then it kicks in to requiring to go through the historic process and look at the needs for specifics on how to be done. Because you could actually own a historic structure and not necessarily rehabilitate it to historic standards if you didn't want to. But if you want to utilize any of the CDBG money or historic or state or federal tax credits, you'd have to do it through the SHPO office, through the Historic Preservation Commission guidelines for how to do it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay.
Motion to
Well,
adjourn.
thank you for the presentation.
Second.
Thank you for
All right,
allowing
we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Thank you for your time today. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.